just work out the same issues that Daniel had this morning with mirroring the device. That's the only slide I'm going to show until the end of the presentation. But you know, I'm talking about a community contribution from our colleagues in the small and medium business. I think the microphone could be set up a bit, I don't know. So we took a community contribution for change tracking, implemented it almost from scratch again to incorporate and also to showcase the best practices and to serve as a template how plugin development for or from the community could be done. It's change tracking, that means just enabling a common change history in an application for any business entity. I'll just walk through the sample. So that's, let me see if that button here helps a bit. No, that was the wrong button. Full screen doesn't work, seems like, okay. There is a folder in github.com called cup.js. I think you've seen it in the keynote this morning. It contains several projects. One of them is called Change Tracking Dev, and that is a mono repo setup where we have the incidents management application. That is also something that you've probably seen today more than once. That's our current sample application. And there is also a sample in there, and there is something called change tracking inside. This is an independent repository where the change tracking plugin was developed, and the sample application is quite simple. Let's look at package.json. We have two dependencies. One is change tracking and one is incidents. Since if you're familiar with a bookshop with a monorepo setup, that just means the top level, there is a workspace set up, and the workspace is encompassing all folders so that all of these dependencies work by magic. So package.json is just pulling in change tracking and nothing else. Then you have, in addition, there is one file, except of the README, services.cds, where we pull in the incidents management application. So we are using everything from the incidents management application. And I'm annotating two entities on service level. That's not database level, it's on service level where I put the annotations with changelog. And I'm also annotating which attributes should be logged. So in that case, the customer name should be logged. So that is also our annotation format that you probably know from the Fiori Elements annotations. If you don't use David's ChatGPT plugin, then title, status, and also the conversations are annotated with that thing. If I omit the changelog annotation from an entity, nothing is logged. If I omit the changelog annotation from the attributes, everything is logged. So all attributes are logged. This is probably not what you want. And basically, that's it. So I'm running the application, and let's just for the sake delete the annotation just so that you see that there is no magic happening. We are going to remove that in a second. So let's open the incidents management application, and let's go to the incidents Fiori preview. I'm just going here to make things faster, and let's open one of these in process incidents. Everything is nice, everything is running and boring. So let's just reverse what I did. Okay, and you see the server restarted from its own. CDS watch works like magic. Let's just go again. My incidents and open one of these incidents. And now I have a change history list in the UI. Just by adding the annotation to the entity, I got a new UI facet. If I now go, let's say solar panel broken, and I change that still to broken, and I perhaps go and say from in process to assigned, and perhaps I also add a new conversation here, and that conversation, something. Okay. Something happened because of a small screen resolution, probably. Yeah. Okay. And now I save my draft, and I now get a couple of entries in my change history list. And it says old value was nothing, new value is still waiting. That is the new conversation that is added, and then the title of the incidents and also the status of the incident was managed. So that's the whole thing. Basically, you get a piece of UI, you get a change log, and you get also the storage for the change log and all of these things for free by doing just a couple of annotations in your model. And let's just see why this magic is happening. So let's take a look at the change tracking repository, which is the plugin, which you can in the future just require, for example, also from cup.js. We are going to also publish in the future the cup.js packages to NPM. But apart from that, you can always, in your package.json, you can always set a, for example, link directly to a Git repository. And you can require your plugin directly from cup.js by just having the URL to your Git. Let's see what we have here. First thing that we have here is change tracking is a plugin. And since it's a plugin, it has a main method. So that is what we describe here, CDS plugin.js. And what's happening here in addition, the CDS requires section contains a piece of modeling. So let's take a look at the model. The model is here, index CDS. And what we see here, let me just scroll down. We get an aspect, and that aspect is a UI facet. That is the piece of UI that you got, that you saw. And the aspect also has a changes association to a change view, and the change view is a view on the entity changes, where we basically, you see also here the UI annotations for changes, and the change log entity, so the entries, and here is the Fiori elements part of the change view annotation. So all of these things are part of a plugin, and now we need to find out how to mix these annotations into our model, because you didn't see any CDS deploy, you didn't see any require or even some other stuff. And especially the changes annotation association should only mixed in to these entities that are change tracked, where the annotation is in place. So CDS plugin is the place where we bootstrap all of the plugin functionality. So there is two main things to work on. The one is CDS onloaded. So that is our best practice approach how to work. And the CDS onloaded event, that is a bootstrap event which happens before CDS watch starts. It happens before CDS build starts. It happens before CDS deploy starts. That's very important. So whatever is written here in CDS loaded also is called when you run any of our tools in the umbrella. So if you deploy the application to productive, if you deploy the application to HANA, whatsoever, that functionality is always called. So in that case, what we do is we load the model, we take a look at the annotation, and if the annotation is present, we are taking the aspect and also the UI facets and mixing it into the model to that entity. We have a couple of helpers here. We have a couple of helpers to determine the keys, because you've seen we did not annotate any keys to the annotation. We're just relying on CDS to know the keys to an entity and to carry them. There is a fine-grained way to define the keys you want to track, for example, a surrogate key instead of a other key, or to name for better formatting, to have a speaking key like a title or something that is then change tracked. But the defaults, and that's also the way how CDS usually works, the defaults should always be the most simple case and the most easy way. So in our case, just one annotation and nothing else is okay. And if you require more fine-grained control, then you can go full bore and do as many annotations as you want. Redefine the keys, override stuff, whatever. The UI annotations and also the aspect are mixed into the CDS on loaded. And the second thing, so that is what happens when the tools run. The second event that is important for us is the CDS on served event. Here's where the runtime is bootstrapping the entities and the event handlers. And what you see here is we are attaching DB before handlers, before create, update, and delete. And these are generic event handlers, track changes, that's the function, which is then doing all the magic, including, as you see here, that is a runtime technique. The runtime offers a diff method for each request, something we did not document, but it's still there. And that diff is also used, for example, for audit logging. And that diff is then used to identify the changes, format them, make them a bit prettier, put it into the database table, and then add track piece changes. Main difference between change tracking and audit logging is change tracking is just inside the application, inside one central database table. So that means you as an application developer need to take care of database table aging, table management if it becomes too large, similar to archiving and similar things. Audit log does almost the same, but it's not storing the data inside the application, and it's also not allowing anybody to access the data. It's using a vault, a secure vault, where the data is stored, and only people with very special permissions can go to the vault. Usually it's the police, and some admin has to hand them the keys to that specific data safe or data vault. But the changelog is generic functionality for everybody, can be used immediately. If you go to cap.js and take a look at the change tracking repo, is there? No, it's there. If you're an SAP employee, sorry about that. And it's going to be there for everybody, even for the public. We expect in 6 to 8 weeks, something like that, because we're still cleaning up. You've seen in the comments like get rid of that and clean up here and change that. So we're still in the process of doing that. But we wanted to highlight it here on Recap as one of the examples how you actually develop plugins and what we envisioned with the plugin technology and how these plugins can be developed by the community. I think I'm very good in time. Back to my slideshow. Yeah, the what I explained. Very important, we did not develop a change tracking plugin. We just changed the plugin plumbing and made it a bit prettier, but the whole thing was developed by the small and medium enterprise team outside of the CAP organization and outside of a technology unit at SAP. There is a blog entry on blog.sap.com by my colleague Daniel Schlachter, where we outline the approach with a CDS plugin, and that's basically also something like a small template and a small end-to-end guide how to create plugins on your own. And the same technique that you've seen in the change tracking plugin is, for example, also how the audit log plugin is going to work in the future. And the same technique is also used for the new SQLite driver, for the new PostgreSQL driver, and we have a couple of other contributions in the pipeline, and we are very open to the community suggesting, developing, and contributing to that approach, and to also put the plugin technique that we have to the test. And that's already First question here.
Okay, I saw you first. I don't know who was first.
One question.